Hi, please reflect with me for a moment. What if the strongest form of attraction isn't something a man does to a woman, but something his presence quietly awakens inside her, long before she can even explain why she feels drawn to him? According to David Buss and decades of evolutionary psychology research, there's a deeper psychological dynamic behind why some men create addictive attraction without even trying. It lives inside female attraction psychology, and it's triggered by masculine polarity, masculine presence, and the subtle power of psychological seduction. When a man learns to embody irresistible male energy, something unexpected happens. Curiosity turns into deep feminine attraction, and before she understands why, emotional gravity begins pulling her closer. But here's the twist most men never discover. Once you understand the hidden mechanics of sexual polarity, dynamics, and masculine frame control, the entire dynamic of attraction changes. The hidden principle behind becoming emotionally irreplaceable to a woman begins with something most men never examine closely enough: the quality of energy they carry before they even speak a word. There's a quiet principle most men overlook when they think about attraction. They assume charm, looks, or constant attention are what create desire. But the deeper layer operates differently. A wise mentor would say the real catalyst lies in masculine polarity and the calm steadiness of masculine presence. When a man carries himself with grounded certainty, something subtle begins to happen in female attraction psychology. The emotional atmosphere around him changes. It's not loud or flashy. Instead, it builds a quiet tension, one that slowly awakens subconscious desire, triggers most people never consciously notice. Think about how people react to genuine composure. When a man walks into a room with centered body language, relaxed shoulders, and clear intent, he communicates something deeper than words. That signal often activates primal attraction dynamics, embedded in female attraction psychology. It's not about arrogance, it's about emotional gravity. Let's make this concrete, because theory without application is just entertainment. Imagine a man walking into a social gathering. Two types of men walk through the same door. The first man scans the room immediately. His eyes move quickly, looking for validation, looking to see who noticed him arrive. His shoulders are slightly forward. His smile comes up too fast, too wide, too eager. He moves toward the nearest conversation within seconds. The second man enters the same room. He pauses. Not long enough to be noticed, just a breath. He takes in the space without urgency. His shoulders are back. His eye contact when it lands is steady, not scanning. He moves toward a drink first, then toward a conversation of his own choosing, at his own pace. Same room, same night. Two entirely different signals transmitted into the emotional atmosphere. The women in that room feel the difference before they can name it. The first man communicated need. The second man communicated completeness. That completeness is the foundation of dominant masculine presence, and it starts before language begins. A calm voice, steady eye contact, and deliberate speech express masculine emotional strength. This isn't performance, it's cultivated through daily practice. Here's the practical element most content leaves out. The groundedness you express in social situations is directly proportional to the groundedness you build in solitude. Men who have a genuine morning practice, structured time alone, regular physical training, and meaningful work to return to those men carry a different quality into every room. You can feel whether a man has a life worth returning to, or whether he's hoping the interaction in front of him will fill a void. Now, the interesting twist is that attraction deepens when the man doesn't chase approval. Many men mistakenly believe attention equals attraction. Yet, constant validation often weakens sexual polarity dynamics. Instead, when a man demonstrates quiet certainty and masculine frame control, he maintains the emotional structure of the interaction. This stability reinforces dominant masculine presence, which can awaken feminine desire triggers almost automatically. It's the difference between trying to impress and simply embodying irresistible male energy, a quality that gradually nurtures addictive attraction without appearing forced. Here's what approval-seeking actually looks like in practice, because most men do it without realizing they're doing it. Watch yourself in the next conversation you have with a woman you're attracted to. Notice how many times you check her face after you say something. Notice how quickly your tone changes if she goes slightly quiet. Notice whether you start agreeing with things you don't actually agree with, or softening your opinions the moment she seems to push back. Each of those micro adjustments is an approval signal, and every one of them quietly dismantles her attraction to you. Masculine frame control is the opposite of that. It means you have an internal reference point that doesn't shift based on how she reacts. Her approval doesn't regulate your emotional state. A practical way to begin building this is the deliberate pause. Before you respond to anything she says, take 1 full second. Not 2, just 1. That pause says, I'm not reactively performing. I'm actually present and choosing my response. Over time, that pattern signals emotional steadiness. And emotional steadiness is magnetic inside female attraction psychology. A wise mentor might explain it this way. Emotional leadership creates emotional safety. When a man practices male emotional leadership, he doesn't manipulate feelings. He guides the tone of the moment. That guidance expresses masculine, confident psychology, which strengthens deep feminine attraction. Imagine a conversation where the man listens carefully, speaks calmly, and never rushes to fill silence. Those quiet pauses amplify psychological seduction, allowing curiosity to grow naturally. Over time, this dynamic nurtures feminine emotional addiction, not because of pressure, but because emotional certainty becomes deeply comforting. Here's where many men misunderstand the game entirely. They think attraction must always be intense or dramatic, but powerful attraction often grows from subtlety. The quiet humor in a conversation, the relaxed confidence in posture, the calm way a man handles tension, all of this reinforces seductive masculine energy. These small signals gradually trigger feminine obsession triggers rooted in dark attraction psychology. The key difference is that nothing feels forced. The man isn't performing. He's simply anchored in masculine desire dynamics, and that grounded energy begins shaping the emotional rhythm of the connection. Let's get specific. During conversation, a man who maintains steady eye contact, smiles lightly, and speaks with deliberate pacing subtly demonstrates masculine presence. Instead of reacting nervously to every comment, he responds with curiosity. That calm response activates subconscious desire triggers, linked to sexual polarity dynamics. If she teases him, he doesn't defend himself. He smiles and replies playfully, reinforcing masculine frame control. This interaction quietly strengthens psychological magnetism, and the emotional tension that follows often becomes the foundation of genuine addictive attraction. There's a specific scenario worth walking through in detail, because this comes up constantly. She says something mildly dismissive. Maybe she jokes that you seem like the kind of guy who has everything figured out, but it's laced with a subtle challenge. The average man either deflects awkwardly or over-explains to prove himself. Both responses collapse the frame. They communicate, "What you just said disturbed my equilibrium." The man with genuine masculine presence responds differently. He might smile, hold the eye contact for a beat longer than expected, and simply say something like, "Sometimes." One word. Calm. Not defensive, not trying to recover anything. Then he lets the silence sit. That response does 3 things simultaneously. It signals that her test didn't land as a threat. It leaves her with an unresolved loop, because one-word answers, in confident delivery, invite imagination. And it holds the emotional frame of the interaction firmly in his domain. That's masculine frame control operating in real time, not through effort, through settledness. Over time, these interactions compound. Each conversation reinforces the same emotional signal: stability, confidence, and direction. Women tend to feel drawn toward men who embody dominant masculine presence, because it contrasts with the uncertainty many people experience daily. That contrast heightens deep feminine attraction. The man doesn't need dramatic gestures. His consistency expresses high-value male behavior and strengthens masculine emotional strength. As the dynamic evolves, something subtle begins unfolding inside female attraction psychology. When a man consistently demonstrates masculine presence, he creates emotional contrast. Most interactions women experience are predictable, reactive, and emotionally unstable. But when they encounter a man grounded in masculine emotional strength, Their mind interprets that stability as rare. This is where psychological magnetism intensifies. His calm reactions reinforce masculine frame control, which strengthens sexual polarity dynamics. Over time, those moments activate deeper subconscious desire triggers, allowing deep feminine attraction to grow without either person consciously realizing why. Another powerful element lies in emotional pacing. Many men rush interactions because they fear losing interest. Ironically, that urgency weakens addictive attraction. When a man slows the emotional tempo, curiosity begins expanding. This is a core element of psychological seduction and masculine confidence psychology. Here is what emotional pacing looks like as a practical behavior. Most men respond to messages within minutes, every time, regardless of what they're doing. That pattern, that reflexive, constant availability, trains her brain to take the interaction for granted, not because she's consciously calculating, but because the variable reward mechanism that generates genuine dopaminergic anticipation requires unpredictability to function. When she can set a clock by your responses, the curiosity loop never opens. The adjustment is simple, but requires genuine commitment to your own life. You respond when you're genuinely done with what you were doing, not to manufacture mystery. Because you're actually engaged in things that matter to you. The result is that when you do respond, she notices. The quality of your response carries weight because she wasn't certain when it was coming. Over time, that pattern subtly repositions who is waiting for whom in the dynamic, and that repositioning is felt, not calculated. Instead of flooding conversations with attention, a man creates space for imagination. That space activates feminine desire triggers, tied to primal attraction dynamics. Suddenly, the woman begins wondering what he's thinking, what he'll say next, and why his presence feels so different from other men displaying average, high-value male behavior. At this stage, seductive masculine energy becomes visible in subtle behavior. The man with genuine masculine presence isn't trying to dominate conversations. Instead, he expresses quiet emotional dominance through clarity and direction. If plans change, he adapts calmly. If tension appears, he remains composed. These responses reinforce dominant masculine presence, a key element in dark attraction psychology. Consider a small behavioral shift many mentors recommend. When speaking with a woman, instead of constantly agreeing, a man occasionally offers thoughtful disagreement, not confrontation, just perspective. Here's how that actually plays out. She shares an opinion about something, maybe a mutual choice, maybe a social situation, maybe something broader. The average man with low masculine frame immediately begins constructing agreement. He molds his perspective to match hers. In the short term, this feels smooth. In the long term, it communicates something damaging. He has no ground of his own. The man with masculine frame control holds his view. He doesn't argue or debate aggressively. He simply says something like, "I actually see that differently. What I've found is..." And then he offers his genuine perspective with calm certainty. No apology in the tone. No anxious monitoring of her reaction. Just his actual view, delivered from a grounded place. That moment of respectful disagreement does something powerful inside female attraction psychology. It says this man has a self. He isn't constructed by the conversation in front of him. He existed before she arrived and will continue after she leaves. That selfhood, that distinct inner architecture, is one of the rarest and most compelling signals a man can transmit. It awakens sexual polarity dynamics, because polarity requires two distinct poles. Without masculine distinctness, there is no magnetic charge. This interaction stops feeling predictable. Instead, it becomes emotionally engaging. That unpredictability activates subconscious desire triggers, connected to primal attraction dynamics, increasing deep feminine attraction while reinforcing the man's reputation as someone who embodies irresistible male energy. There's also the role of emotional mystery, not secrecy, mystery. Men who reveal everything immediately often weaken psychological seduction because curiosity disappears. But a man who gradually reveals his thoughts allows female attraction psychology to unfold naturally. Here's a specific example of how this plays out in conversation. He's achieved something meaningful, a project completed, a goal reached, something significant. She asks how his week was. The man without mystery immediately tells the whole story. He opens the full picture, explains the effort, describes the outcome in detail, and in doing so, gives her mind nothing to pursue. She received the complete content. The loop is closed before it ever opened. The man who understands emotional mystery responds differently. He says, "Actually, a big week. Something I've been working toward for a while came through." Then he moves the conversation somewhere else. He doesn't withhold to frustrate. He withholds because not everything needs to be delivered immediately. He's allowing the story to have a door she might want to open later. If she's curious, she'll come back to it. What was the thing you mentioned earlier? And now the conversation has a different quality. She reached toward him. She pursued the detail. That micro moment of her leaning in is the mechanism of psychological seduction operating precisely as it should. Each interaction leaves a trace of curiosity behind. That curiosity activates feminine desire triggers tied to psychological magnetism. The woman begins reflecting on conversations long after they end, reinforcing the emotional imprint created by seductive masculine energy. Let's make this real with a story that walks through transformation specifically. A man named Daniel once struggled with dating. He believed constant texting and reassurance would build attraction. Instead, women slowly lost interest. Then he discovered the principles behind masculine polarity and male emotional leadership. Daniel stopped chasing approval and began focusing on masculine emotional strength. He improved his posture, spoke more calmly, and listened more deeply. Those small shifts transformed his masculine presence. Within weeks, conversations felt different. Women responded with curiosity, and the quiet pull of addictive attraction began emerging naturally. But let's go deeper than that, because the summary is less useful than the specifics. Daniel's pattern before the shift looked like this. He woke up and checked his phone before his feet hit the floor. The first message of his day was usually to her. "Good morning" text, sent before 7 a.m. If she didn't reply within an hour, his mood changed. He would check the phone again, then send a follow-up message, pretending to ask something unrelated but really just reopening the silence. By midday, he'd sent 3 messages and received 1 response. He spent the afternoon distracted, replaying her last reply, looking for signals in the wording. That cycle, the constant monitoring, the emotional dependency on her response pattern, was communicating something she couldn't ignore at a subconscious level. It said, "My inner world depends on your input, and that dependence is the opposite of dominant masculine presence. It places her at the center of his gravity." And women do not find that center of gravity position exciting. They find it heavy. Week 1 of Daniel's shift was this. He deleted her contact from his favorites. He started his day with 30 minutes of training before touching his phone. He set a simple rule: he would not initiate contact more than once per day, and only when he had something genuinely worth saying, not to manufacture scarcity. Because he was rebuilding the discipline of only speaking when he had something real to offer. Day 3, she texted him. He was in the middle of something. He finished it, then replied 40 minutes later, warmly, directly, briefly. Then went back to what he was doing. He didn't extend the conversation by asking questions at the end of every message. He made a statement or responded to hers and closed his side cleanly. Day 5. She sent a longer message, more personal. He could feel the pull to reciprocate in kind, to match her vulnerability with an immediate equal share. Instead, he read it carefully, thought about his response genuinely, and replied that evening with something considered and real. Not cold, not brief for the sake of it, genuinely considered. Day 7, she asked to meet. He agreed, offered a specific window that worked for his schedule, not his first available moment, just a genuine time, and confirmed simply, no elaborate planning. No immediate accommodation. What changed between day 1 and day 7 wasn't a strategy. It was his center of gravity. He stopped being a man whose emotional weather was determined by her responses and became a man who had things happening in his own atmosphere. She felt the shift before she could name it. That is the mechanism. Not manufactured, real. Daniel also made practical changes beyond the texting dynamic. He started practicing calm body language techniques from communication psychology resources. He studied the difference between reactive and responsive presence. Reactive presence is when you immediately match the energy directed at you. She's cold, you become anxious. She's warm, you become effusive. Responsive presence is when you receive her energy, process it, and respond from your own equilibrium. The difference is subtle to observe and enormous to experience. He began doing something simple at the start of every important conversation. Before engaging fully, he took a breath and felt his feet on the floor. That deliberate moment of physical grounding prevented him from immediately entering her emotional frame. He stayed in his own. And that distinction in itself, that quiet refusal to be swept into whatever emotional current she brought, is what masculine frame control looks like from the inside. By embodying high-value male behavior, Daniel stopped trying to impress. Instead, he created emotional intrigue. Gradually, women began investing more effort, reinforcing deep feminine attraction and the quiet pull of feminine emotional addiction. Another key shift Daniel made involved emotional pacing. Instead of responding instantly to every message, he maintained balance in his schedule. This simple adjustment reinforced dominant masculine presence and strengthened masculine confidence psychology. The interaction no longer felt rushed or needy. That calm independence activated primal attraction dynamics connected to sexual polarity dynamics. Women began perceiving him differently not because he was playing games, but because his behavior expressed seductive masculine energy. These subtle signals strengthened feminine desire triggers, increasing the emotional curiosity that fuels long-term psychological seduction. One specific area most men overlook entirely is the voice. The voice is one of the most immediate carriers of masculine presence. And most men speak in a way that unconsciously communicates anxiety sentences that trail upward at the end, as though asking for permission, pace that accelerates when nervous, volume that drops when uncertain. Here's a practical exercise Daniel began that changed the quality of his presence faster than almost anything else. 3 times per week, he spent 10 minutes reading aloud from something he found genuinely compelling. A book, an article, anything. He read slowly. He ended sentences going downward in pitch rather than upward. He paused between paragraphs without rushing to fill the silence. That deliberate practice rewired how he used his voice under pressure. Because the voice that reads calmly in solitude gradually becomes the voice that speaks calmly in an interaction. And a voice that is settled, measured, and resolute without being loud or forced, that voice communicates masculine emotional strength before a single word of content lands. A calm voice, steady eye contact, and deliberate speech express masculine emotional strength. Over time, this creates a sense of intrigue. Women start interpreting that composure as high-value male behavior. The man begins to radiate the kind of psychological magnetism that naturally sparks curiosity. A wise mentor would say the real shift begins internally. Men often focus on techniques when the deeper transformation lies in identity. When a man strengthens his masculine confidence psychology, his behavior naturally changes. His voice slows down, his posture becomes grounded, and his reactions become thoughtful rather than impulsive. These subtle signals reinforce dominant masculine presence and strengthen masculine frame control. But what does identity-level work actually look like in the daily life of a real man? It looks like this. He has a clear picture of who he's becoming and what he's building, not a vague aspiration. A specific direction. He's developing a skill that challenges him. He's moving toward a professional goal that requires genuine effort. He's maintaining a physical practice that builds not just his body, but his relationship to discomfort and discipline. When a man is genuinely in motion in his own life, his energy in social situations reflects it. He doesn't need the interaction in front of him to make him feel significant, because significance is already being built elsewhere. That internal fullness, that genuine sense of momentum and purpose, is what makes high-value male behavior feel authentic rather than performed. And women can sense the difference between a man who is performing completeness and a man who is actually complete. Another overlooked factor is emotional contrast. Attraction grows when warmth and independence coexist. A man who demonstrates high-value male behavior balances engagement with personal focus. He enjoys conversation, yet continues pursuing his own ambitions. This dynamic strengthens masculine polarity and reinforces seductive masculine energy. Women interpret this independence as strength within dark attraction psychology. The interaction stops feeling ordinary and begins activating feminine obsession triggers connected to masculine desire dynamics. Here is what that balance looks like in a real interaction. He's deeply present and engaged while the conversation is happening. He listens fully. He contributes genuinely. He laughs when something is actually funny, rather than performing laughter to please. He makes her feel heard and seen during the exchange. And then, the interaction ends, and he returns fully to his own life. He doesn't carry the conversation with him into the next hour. He doesn't replay it, looking for signals. He doesn't monitor what she's doing after. He closes it and re-engages with whatever he was building. That clean closure, that genuine re-engagement with his own direction after the interaction ends, is what makes his presence feel like something she wants to return to. Eventually, the relationship dynamic begins shifting in subtle ways. The woman may start initiating conversations more frequently. She might ask deeper questions or find small reasons to stay connected. These behaviors often signal the activation of feminine obsession triggers, rooted in sexual polarity dynamics. But it's worth being specific about what these look like, because men often miss them when they're subtle. She starts a message by referencing something you said in a previous conversation, something she remembered. She asks your opinion on a decision she's facing. She sends you something she found because it reminded her of something you said. These behaviors indicate that her mind is returning to you even when you're not present. That's the imprint of psychological magnetism operating across time. The man's consistent masculine presence and high-value male behavior gradually create emotional gravity. That gravity strengthens psychological magnetism and reinforces primal attraction dynamics. Without any obvious moment of change, the interaction transforms. What began as simple interest slowly evolves into genuine feminine emotional addiction. At this point, attraction begins operating beneath conscious awareness. The woman may not articulate what draws her in, yet the emotional pull strengthens. This is where female attraction psychology reveals its deeper layer. A man who consistently embodies masculine presence and calm emotional dominance creates an emotional environment that feels both exciting and safe. The combination activates subconscious desire triggers tied to primal attraction dynamics. The result is powerful, addictive attraction. She begins associating his presence with emotional stimulation, reinforcing psychological magnetism and amplifying deep feminine attraction without logical explanation. There's a moment that every man going through this kind of genuine transformation will eventually face. She goes quiet. The conversation drops off. She doesn't initiate for a few days. And every instinct, every old pattern of behavior, rises up and tells him to reach out, to check in, to smooth it over. This is the test, not her test, his. The man who collapses under that discomfort and sends the anxious check-in message has just communicated something devastating. His equilibrium depends on her presence. That single action undoes weeks of steady masculine frame building. The man who holds the line during that silence, who stays engaged with his own life, who doesn't reach out from anxiety, who continues building what he was building, that man has just passed the most important test in the dynamic. And when she does re-engage, she will feel the difference. Because he will respond warmly, genuinely, without rushing to close any distance. His manner will say, "I was fine. I am fine. I'm glad you're here. But I was already whole before you returned." That combination, warmth without need, is the most compelling signal a man can transmit inside female attraction psychology. It says the connection is real, but it doesn't define him. And that quality, that genuine self-possession, is the foundation on which everything else in this conversation has been built. A mentor often reminds men that attraction grows through emotional contrast. If every moment feels predictable, desire fades. But when a man balances warmth with independence, curiosity thrives. This rhythm strengthens sexual polarity dynamics and reinforces masculine polarity. For example, a man might enjoy a great conversation, yet confidently return to his own priorities afterward. That subtle independence demonstrates high-value male behavior and authentic masculine frame control. Over time, These signals activate feminine desire triggers and strengthen seductive masculine energy, gradually building the foundation for feminine emotional addiction. Ultimately, the psychological shift behind powerful attraction is surprisingly simple in principle, though it takes genuine daily commitment to build in practice. When a man aligns purpose, emotional stability, and authenticity, his presence begins influencing the emotional environment around him. This alignment strengthens male emotional leadership and reinforces masculine polarity, two forces that shape female attraction psychology. Over time, these qualities activate subconscious desire, triggers that deepen addictive attraction and nurture deep feminine attraction. Here is what the daily practice actually looks like when condensed into a structure. The first hour of the day belongs entirely to you. Before any phone, before any message, before any external input, train. Read, write, create, build something that matters to you. That hour, held sacred and non-negotiable, is where the internal groundedness that appears as masculine presence in social situations is actually generated. You cannot download that quality. You can only build it. During interactions, practice the deliberate pause before responding. Practice staying in your own frame when tested. Practice offering your genuine perspective even when it risks disagreement. Practice listening with full presence rather than waiting for your turn to speak. Practice the clean exit-ending interactions gracefully, and then genuinely returning to your own life without monitoring. These aren't techniques in the conventional sense. They're expressions of a developing character. The attraction that results isn't manufactured from the outside in. It radiates from the inside out. And that difference between performance and embodiment is the entire distinction between average male behavior and genuine masculine polarity. The woman may not logically explain why she feels drawn toward him, but the quiet force of psychological magnetism continues pulling her closer. So, here's the real question every man eventually has to face. Now that you understand how female attraction psychology responds to masculine polarity, masculine presence, and authentic masculine emotional strength, what are you actually going to do with this knowledge? Because ideas alone don't change a man's life, behavior does. When you start embodying high-value male behavior, practicing male emotional leadership, and maintaining masculine frame control, the dynamic of attraction begins shifting naturally. That's where psychological magnetism, seductive masculine energy, and real addictive attraction start emerging in everyday interactions. Think about your own experiences for a moment. Have you ever noticed how some men naturally create deep feminine attraction without trying too hard? It's rarely about status or appearance. More often, it's the quiet signals of dominant masculine presence, emotional composure, and the kind of grounded certainty that activates subconscious desire triggers within sexual polarity dynamics. Those signals awaken feminine desire triggers, and even feminine obsession triggers, not through manipulation, but through authentic, masculine, confident psychology. So here's a challenge for you. Next time you interact with a woman, focus on one thing: your presence. Slow down your reactions. Speak clearly. Maintain calm eye contact. Let your actions reflect masculine desire dynamics instead of seeking approval. That small shift alone can start activating the kind of psychological seduction that builds genuine emotional connection. Drop a comment below and write this simple phrase: presence creates attraction. It'll be interesting to see how many men here are ready to take control of their development and embody real magnetic masculinity. And if this video shifted something for you, if something here resonated in a way you didn't expect, go ahead and like it, share it with a man who needs to hear it, and subscribe, because what we're building here goes deeper with every video. Hit the bell so you don't miss what comes next. The journey toward stronger masculinity and a genuine understanding of female attraction psychology is not a destination you arrive at. It's a direction you choose to move in every single day. To every Forge brother sharing this content and supporting this channel, thank you. Because of you, more men are finding their way back to themselves. More men choosing presence over performance, purpose over approval, depth over display. That ripple is real. Each man who reclaims his masculine grounding creates a version of himself that interacts differently with every person he meets. The effect reaches further than you know. Keep forging, brothers.